there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I'm a Western practical astrologer. Okay, so today we are going to be talking all about the asteroid Vesta in astrology. Yes, we're going to be going through each of the signs, so I do hope that you find this video to be helpful. Though before we do dive into today's video, if you want to learn more about astrology, then head on over to the Cosmic Check-In podcast, and also you can pick up a copy of my astrology cheat sheets there, available on my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you would like me to guide you through your chart, you can book a reading with me by going to hannahselsewhere.com as well. Now, there is the episode all about Vesta in astrology available on the podcast. So the Cosmic Check-In podcast, it is episode 48. Though, let's talk about Vesta. Let's explore her. And before we give some brief descriptors about Vesta, I think it's important to highlight that, well, Vesta is one of the children of Saturn and Rhea. What I want you to remember here is that Saturn and Rhea had 6 children. So the children they created together includes, well, we've got Neptune, Pluto, and Jupiter. So, of course, Neptune, really the realm of the sea, the oceans, water. Then we have Pluto, the ruler of the underworld. And then we have Jupiter, right? The ruler of the heavens, the king of the gods. Even Jupiter went on to have his own children and so on and so forth. But then we also see that these asteroids, we've got Vesta, Juno, and Ceres, they are also the children of Saturn and Rhea. And that's what we're going to be discussing. We're going to explore over these next few videos Vesta, Juno, Ceres, and Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena, she's a special case, okay, very unique, I think. And we will talk about her in her own video very soon. But I thought it was important to mention that the fact that they're all siblings. All of these planets, if you will, they are connected in this regard. Right, Vesta. Let's explore Vesta. She is taking center stage today. Vesta in your chart is so much about protecting your sacred flame. And there's the whole mythology linked to the Vestal Virgins, and they did protect the sacred flame for the community. And so what we notice is that Vesta is so much about how we keep our flame, our inner sacred, eternal flame, burning. And I did mention in the podcast episode that there could be that correlation, I guess, between the sun and Vesta, because the sun is our life force. It represents our vitality. But then Vesta, you see, is also linked to this. Vesta does offer some kind of assistance and help, support when it comes to our very well-being, our wellness. Vesta does often even look at how we devote ourselves. So how we devote ourselves, how we commit ourselves to a certain task. And then there can also be this suggestion that Vesta can link in a bit with Mars, so Mars also is about our motivation and our drive, but I guess in a way, Vesta can take things to a deeper level, right? Because we want to think about how we truly commit, how we truly devote ourselves to a project. There's a great focus as we attain our goals. And then, of course, it's about the sacrifices we make in order to get there. And there is a self-reliance, There's a strong self-reliance to Vesta, a self-containment to Vesta. And again, these descriptors really link to the very mythology. And that's where you got to listen to the podcast episode for more information. But then I'm also going to say here that Vesta ties in with our very sexual expression, whether this be our sexual expression is freeing or suppressed. It depends. Vesta then is also about service, wholeness, purpose, purity. And there is this strong focus on, like I'm saying here, being of service, just like the Vestal Virgins were of service. They committed about 30 years of their lives, or maybe it was their whole lives, but they committed so much of their lives to protecting this sacred flame, to keep it alive, to keep it burning. And so this is what we really learn from Vesta. It's about how capable are we at keeping our sacred flame burning, and we protect it with everything in us. There's certainly a purpose present there. However, like anything in astrology, there can be shadow sides. There can be parts where, things may not serve us super, super well either. Vesta then can also show up as us alienating ourselves, deprivation, denial. So we could deny ourselves of something that maybe we do really want, or something that we would like to obtain or achieve. And on our quest to maybe attain our goals, we can alienate ourselves. We can be too self-reliant, too focused on our own personal aims. And we can also experience shame for having our own desires. Yes, there can be shame that can step in when we work with Vesta. Plus, we can work ourselves to death. There can be this lack of living a balanced life. And I think that's also partly where this health element comes into the equation with Vesta, where the sun also comes into the equation when we think about our vitality, right? Because, the sun is so much about our health, our wellness, our happiness, the things that bring us joy, the things that do light us up. So in this regard, whenever we might work with Vesta in a way that's not so helpful, right? Maybe it's more detrimental, that it can show up as us making too many sacrifices, not living a very balanced lifestyle. Right. So with Vesta being explained very briefly, again, listen to the podcast episode to learn more about her. We are now going to get into your signs. And I do want to say thank you so much for watching. Okay, let's do this then. Let's explore Vesta through the signs. First up, we have Vesta in Aries. What does this suggest for you if you have this placement? Well, your eternal flame represents your very desire to move freely and independently. What you do is you protect your personal accomplishments, right? So any goals you have, any passion projects, desires, wants, you're going to protect those. And you might actually get quite angry at others who try to get in the way of you attaining these types of goals of yours. And it's also likely that you're going to be your own source of inspiration. So I imagine this as you outbeating your own personal best and seeing it as you are your own competition at the end of the day. Sure, you may also feel inspired by what other people are doing, by what other people create, but essentially it's about bringing it back to what you want, what your passions are, what drives you, what motivates you. And you can also actively focus on your goals. You can have this very narrow view, like, yep, this is the path, this is the direction. And You're very driven, very self-assertive. Oh yeah. I see this as whenever you want something enough, you're going to be very, very driven on your quest. However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you're way too hell-bent on your own goals without considering other people. Okay. So there could be a lack of compromise, a lack of listening, a lack of maybe seeing where other people are coming from. It can then, in this regard, be challenging for you to maintain relationships if or when this happens. At the same time, though, you might be self-contained when it comes to your very personal goals and your activities. Still, you're self-reliant, right? Very, very self-reliant, and you're not going to be afraid of stepping up to any challenge. This is certainly the strength of this placement. So if there are any challenges, if there is any resistance, you can be very brave as you approach those challenges. And when it comes to your sexual expression here, you know what you like. You know what you like, and you're also willing to go and get it. Retaining your identity in the bedroom is very important to you. But what I'm also going to say here is we want to think about what's happening in the rest of the chart, of course, right? We want to think about aspects. What other sort of planets, personal planets of yours especially, and okay, sure, generational planets, but what planets is Vesta aspecting? Because this is where we're going to get the bigger picture. We're going to get the full story. But still, I'm thinking that when it comes to this sexual expression stuff, there is a go for it attitude, possibly a me first attitude, or it's your ability to be forward thinking or to innovate in some way, shape, or form, or to be quite active. And there's that excitability, I would say, too, that spontaneity, that spark of life that you can bring. I mean, you can really think about and focus on this spark. So if we think about the sacred flame, it's about that initial spark here and keeping that spark alive. And that then can also manifest within your goals, right? So when you go after a certain goal, it's that that push, that spark, that life, that excitement that you try to keep going. It's that even that momentum to an extent. And equally, this can also show up within the bedroom. Thank you so much, Vesta in Aries, folks. Now we're going to talk about Vesta in Taurus. Okay, Vesta in Taurus, folks. This is where we see that your eternal flame represents your very desire to feel anchored. Anchored, stable, and secure. So these things are very important to you. And so what you may find is that you're very protective of these things. If or when, for example, somebody maybe tests your patience or they try to take you away from this anchored, grounded feeling, that could be when you dig your heels in even more, okay? There is this resistance and this refusal. You also protect your belongings, your comforts, and anybody taking your stuff, a big no. And like I'm trying to get at here, this is also about your very comfort levels and what you're familiar with. could also be heavily tied in with your values. So if you pride yourself on a certain value, or there is a certain value that's very close to you, it's very close to you, and it is meaningful to you in your life, anybody trying to take you away from what your values are, again, it's a big no. You can focus steadily on your goals, and you're very persistent, very patient. You know eventually that you're going to get there, right? It's this whole attitude of, I'll get there when I get there. Okay. You're focusing on your own path, your own journey, your own mission, basically. And it is the whole thing with Taurus of slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. You can then experience these periods where maybe you rest, you prefer to relax along your journey, but you know that you're still focused. You're still going to get there when you get there. However, you can alienate yourself whenever you're inflexible, whenever you're possessive. You can have this mine attitude. This is mine. Don't you dare take this away from me. And then that can also be where there's a resistance to change of any kind. There could be outside people, outside sources trying to maybe warn you of something or signal to you that maybe something needs to change. But you're there going, nope, this is a habit. This is something that is part of my routine. I'll not do it. But then equally, it could be that often you're forced to change. Still, it can be difficult for you to make any compromises in relationships if or when this happens. Yeah, that can happen. And you may also be quite self-contained when it comes to what your personal values are, like I was saying earlier. But I'm thinking this is also about your talents and your skills. Self-contained. So I imagine you, for example, being someone who you might not accept help from other people very easily, especially if it is a matter regarding a skill or a talent, right? Where you think, I will learn this, I will refine this, I want to keep at this. And at the same time, this is where we see your determination. We see that you have an incredible staying power, right? An incredible staying power, which is certainly a part of your gift here. And then when it comes to your sexual expression, you're very earthy. You're very earthy, you're very grounded, very sensual. You can be quite slow in this way to really, get into the zone or get into the mood. And maybe it is through the senses that's how you connect. That's what you need. Doing what comes natural to you in the moment, in the bedroom, is really important. So, not being sort of forced or pushed to do it any other way. It's more about my body. My body feels this. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to connect with my body and go from there. Thank you so much, Vesta and Taurus folks. Now we're going to explore Vesta in Gemini. So Vesta in Gemini, folks, let's talk about you. Your eternal flame represents your desire to be curious and to convey information. Your desire to learn, to educate yourself, to pass on facts, insights, info to other people. And even thinking about your ability to dabble, your ability to explore different things. So, what you do is you protect your ideas, you protect your intellectual abilities. I imagine this as you being strong protectors of your intellectual property, for instance. So I kind of go to, if anybody tries to steal from you or copy, things like that, you perhaps can be very, very defensive, very protective. And you can also become very skilled. I mean, very skilled at communicating. And naturally, this could be through different forms, such as writing certain social media posts. This could be through a certain podcast you create, so there's that speaking piece. This could even be you writing your own book. Networking is another thing here, right? Very skilled at networking, meeting people, connecting people together, knowing in some way, shape, or form who knows what within those networks. And you can also be very adaptable when focusing on your goals, right? When we think about this focus piece to do with Vesta, yeah, you can be very adaptable. And so you are typically willing to try and come up with different ways or new ideas or new methods, new styles, exploring these things, right? You're very open to those different methods. However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you rationalize too much, whenever you're in your head too much, or whenever you stray away from the main message, where you can be maybe quite scattered, or you can lose sight of the bigger picture. You can maybe get caught up in the details. Even trying to have a conversation with you whenever you're in this place can be very challenging. Very, very challenging. You may not want to listen. You may not be ready to hear it, to hear other people's views, other people's opinions. The truth, for example, could be staring you right in the face, and you might go, no, actually, I think this, so, right? Okay. At the same time, of course, you can be self-contained when it comes to your educational interests and your speech. You're inventive and you're willing to learn along the way. And this is, of course, what can really help you here. It's your ability to even come up with those new styles and approaches to help you reach your goals, to help you attain your goals. Could be this whole thing of you thinking smarter. You're going to think smart. And when it comes to your sexual expression, you're very communicative. So I'm thinking that communication is key, especially to get you in the mood for you to feel that connection. It's often through the mind, it's through words, it's through conversations that get you excited. And mental stimulation then is very important in the bedroom. What's that thing though? I'm pretty sure that the brain is the biggest sexual organ. So yeah, you may know this, understand this more than most. But then I'm also thinking it's also about the everyday daily interactions that are just as important. So it's how you and whoever else you're with, how you communicate on a daily basis that can then help contribute to a healthier sort of way of showing up within the bedroom. Thank you so much, Vesta in Gemini, and now we're going to explore Vesta in Cancer. All right, Vesta in Cancer, folks. Your eternal flame represents your desire to nurture those you love and care for. So if you have a family, for example, your family is going to be such a main priority, such a main focus in your life. Or equally, hey, if this is some kind of project you're working on, then you're going to nurture that project. Or if this is a pet of yours, similar thing, you're going to focus so much on looking after your pet, caring for your pet. You can be so sympathetic, highly sympathetic, and very understanding of other people's emotions. You can showcase a high level of emotional intelligence. Plus, you will protect your home. You're going to protect your home, protect your family, and you also typically like to feel needed, right? It's like, need me, care for me, but also let me care for you. It's this sort of influence. Plus, you can be highly tenacious. My goodness, very protective of your goals. You will hold on, hold on, hold on. It's like, don't you take this away from me, okay? And you do display a great deal of inner strength, resilience. My goodness, Cancerian energy is so strong, so determined. They're leaders. And so when we consider Vesta here and how you attain your goals, you are going to display this inner strength. And this inner strength is what keeps you going. What could also keep you going is your desire, your strong desire to want to protect your family, to provide for your family. Even if you don't have a family, okay? Like if you don't have your own children, for instance, maybe you're single, maybe you live alone. Venus in Cancer can manifest still as you protecting your needs, protecting your emotional security. However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you feel as if others are being too harsh or insensitive. And you might withdraw. Okay, so you might withdraw or you might feel really upset with others. So don't get me wrong, I still think that your sensitivity is your gift. It's what makes you you. But whenever someone speaks out of turn and maybe they don't mean to, it's unintentional. The alienation here could be where you just go, nope, nope, I'm refusing to engage, okay? And then trying to help you feel at ease can be really, really challenging when this happens. I'm even thinking that there can be times when it's almost like you expect other people to know exactly what you need as well, or you expect them to be mind readers too, to know just intuitively what to do to support you. And I think that's coming from a place of you being like that, right? So because you can intuitively pick up on those kinds of things, maybe you subconsciously or consciously expect other people to do the same. Okay. Still, you could be very self-contained when it comes to your emotional security and your caregiving as well. Okay. I do see this as you being able to attend to your own emotional needs very, very well, to care for yourself, support yourself. I even think about this as times whenever you need to withdraw, times whenever you need to separate and then look after your own emotions. That could be where great emotional intelligence is present here. And you're motherly. You can be highly protective, highly caring. These are some of your gifts, I guess. And when it comes to your sexual expression, you are sensitive, you are emotional. You get that it's those emotional moments that really can help assist with uh, the bedroom. They can help within the bedroom. It's that feeling of being cared for and being safe. Safety, I think, is a big, big key word here. And then having your needs met in the bedroom is so, so important to you. Last thing I'm going to say is I said this with Vesta and Aries, just keep in mind then aspects. So we want to think about aspects between Vesta and your personal planets, even yes, the generational planets, but the aspects are also going to paint the full story. Thank you so much, Vesta in Cancer. Now we are going to talk about Vesta in Leo. All right, so with this one, with Vesta in Leo, what we notice is that your eternal flame represents your very desire to express yourself, right? To express yourself. So this could be through your clothing, your art, how you style your hair, your facial expressions, your personality, right? Even through how you communicate to an extent, right? Very much about self expression. And your eternal flame represents your desire to be seen, to be loved, somewhat adored, even your desire to be recognized. And what you're going to do is you're also going to be protective of your creations, including your children, by the way. Yes, including your children. You're also going to be protective of your individuality, your ego. Hey, you're going to be protective, I would say, of your heart, and even protective of the things you love, right? So you like being noticed, you like feeling seen for the love you give, for the affection you share, even to be seen for your displays of your inner child, for fun, play, how you entertain, how you enjoy life, how you bring enjoyment to any situation. Okay. You'll also then protect your very joy, your very joy. You can be quite dignified then whenever you focus on your goals. And what you do is you take pride. You certainly take pride in your work, in your output. Yes, so there's a loyalty present here. There can be a determination present here on your quest to achieve your goals. And your focus, like I'm trying to get at here, is your focus is going to be dignified. So if there is anything that comes up along your journey and you think, I'm suspicious of that, I'm not aligned with that, you may go, no, I'm worth more than that. I'm not doing that. I am not going to stoop to their level. No way, right? However, you can alienate yourself whenever you're too prideful, okay? Whenever you're overly childish, or whenever you refuse input from other people, whenever you maybe lose sight of the bigger picture, you lose sight of certain group members, right? Because there can be this taking all the credit, wanting all the credit for what you create or what you do. And don't get me wrong, there could be times when it is you who should take the credit. But I'm just trying to get at here times whenever you might alienate yourself so that you're in the spotlight, being in the spotlight whilst other people are not included. And then it can be quite challenging for others to feel seen within your relationships if this happens. Still, you might be self-contained when it comes to your vitality, to your generosity. It's almost as if to say you don't wait for other people to, in a way, shine the spotlight on you. You gladly are the spotlight, right? You bring it. And you are a leader. You're a leader with a big heart. You're a leader who knows how to direct your own life, your own path. And then when it comes to your sexual expression, quite enthusiastic, perhaps quite fun loving, maybe quite spontaneous. And there's that admiration you may desire. I'm even thinking about loyalty. You strongly need that loyalty and that respect. Okay. Keeping the romance alive in the bedroom is also quite important. So this could be where going on dates, making time for one another, those close moments of connection and affection. It's those things that you really crave, that you really need, so that that sexual expression comes to life more so within the bedroom. Thank you so much, Vesta and Leo. Now we are going to talk about Vesta in Virgo. All right, Vesta in Virgo, folks. I just want to start off by saying that this is a placement I have. Yes, Vesta is in Virgo in my chart. And then I also have a Virgo rising with Jupiter in Virgo, though Vesta is not conjunct my rising or my Jupiter. However, Vesta is making a trine to Mars in Capricorn in my chart, which is pretty cool to see, honestly, and makes a lot of sense. On that note, I have been saying this for a couple of other Vesta signs. This is where you do want to think about the whole chart. You want to think about aspects to other planets to really grasp the bigger picture. Okay, let's explore Vesta in Virgo as a placement. Your eternal flame represents your very desire to be of service and to improve your performance, life itself. You're continuously perhaps seeking to improve. Any way you can improve and refine, you're willing to do it. You are the people who will take things a step further, right? You're the people who will go above and beyond. Whenever there is a project, whenever there is something to be delivered, to be completed, you don't just do the bare minimum. You want to do an exceptional job. And you're also going to protect the things you're working on. So your craft, your services, for example, anything that you are maybe interested in creating, what you're doing, yeah, you're going to be very protective of those things. Oh, and you're also going to be very specific about how things are done. Yeah. It's you that may more so typically want to manage the project and have greater control over it. And also, you typically will not rest until you live up to the expectations you set for yourself. This to me is interesting because I find that I'm very particular about who I work with, who I collaborate with. Above the surface, it may not seem that way, but I do think it's important to be quite particular about the kinds of information that is in a way linked to my name, linked to my services. And we also see that you're very dedicated to your mission. There is this strong devotion. You can be dutiful when focusing on your goals, and there's a need to create order out of chaos and to also serve others, right? Maybe that is a big part of your why. That's a big part of what you're trying to protect. It's to be of service to other people, okay? However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you are too consumed by work, or whenever you are too critical of yourself and others, right? So this alienation can show up as you may be limiting yourself or too harshly focusing on errors, too harshly focusing on certain flaws. I can also relate to this big time. Big time. I can relate to this. Relationships then can be quite challenging if this happens. And I'm also thinking the alienation can happen whenever you're so focused on work itself, so focused on tasks, order, routine, right? And then what happens is you sort of abandon parts of your relationships. So that can happen. Now, don't get me wrong, there could also be nuance to this, a lot of nuance to this. Because this could also manifest as the very people in your life are the ones who are asking for your support, asking for your help, and then it's you that is being of service to them. You're trying to help. So there is that to consider. Moreover, I would also say that you are very self-contained when it comes to your efficiency, planning, you're big planners. You may prefer it that way for you to plan the route, to plan the holiday, to plan the project. You may think that your way is the best way, and hey, that could also be where you alienate yourself too, because you may not want to ask for help and support from other people. Still, you're a natural healer who pays attention to details. It's all about working with systems. It's all about figuring things out, problem solving here. Yeah, you're going to be very dedicated to your ability to problem solve and to come up with solutions in ways where you make things more simplified for people, not so complex. But that within itself can take some time. It's the refinement of Virgo, right? It's okay. This is a complex thing. Refine, 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 improve, improve, improve. Takes time, yes. And when it comes to your sexual expression, you are very hygienic, very particular, perhaps very, very particular. There could be certain things for you, it's like a no-go zone completely, right? Also, it could be suggested that serving your partner, serving your lover in the bedroom, it's important to you. But then equally, I'm thinking that what's also required when it comes to this sexual expression is you feeling not so stressed. You feeling more at ease, because that, I think that can happen where there's a lot of tension that is held in the body, but that also could be where sexual expression can help release that tension. But then equally, it's also about the everyday interactions, similar to the Vesta and Gemini peoples, right? Because of the Mercury influence. Yeah, it's those everyday interactions that also contribute to how you feel in your body, your nervous system, your stress levels, and well-being too. Thank you so much, Vesta in Virgo, folks. Now we're going to talk about Vesta in Libra. Okay, moving on to Vesta in Libra, let's talk about you. Your eternal flame represents your very desire to cooperate, negotiate, to collaborate, and to essentially work with others. Naturally, this could show up in many different settings. This could show up within your actual relationship with your spouse, your significant other, your partner. This could show up at work, right? So we think about coworkers, colleagues, business partners. This could also even show up when it comes to your children, right? Children, cousins of yours, relatives of some kind. And what you're going to do is you're going to protect the give and take dynamic within your relationships, within your partnerships. So there is this giving and receiving influence present here. And maybe for you, you do recognize whenever there is an imbalance present, maybe times whenever you are the one who is over giving, or when you are the one who's over receiving, you'll be able to pick up on those little nuances. Still, you want to create bonds that are based on mutuality, right? This is about mutual respect. This is about feeling like you're a part of a team, you're a part of a union of some kind. Indeed, this is about sharing. Sharing is a big key word here. You can also be tactful when focusing on your goals. So you might prefer to weigh out the pros, the cons, to weigh out your options, to really consider what your options actually are, what options are available to you. Okay, and then that could create more of this longer period of time when it comes to your decision-making process. And then you also might prefer to work with others rather than working alone. Not to say that you can't work alone, but it could be this whole thing of two minds are greater than one. or there is strength found in numbers. Teamwork makes the dream work. But you can also alienate yourself whenever you start to compare yourself too much to other people. Their methods, their style, their ways of doing things, or whenever you sit on the fence for far too long, whenever you're perhaps too indecisive, whenever you take too long to arrive at a certain decision or to do something, there's that lack of action. And then having this harmonious relationship with you, this harmonious relationship, it can be challenging when this happens because maybe the other person is looking to you and is looking for some kind of direction or an opinion or an action, and you're still in this process of, I'm still trying to weigh out my options. Don't get me wrong, this is also part of your process, but you must admit there are times in life whenever we can lose out on certain things because we sat on the fence for too long. Okay. Though you might be self-contained when it comes to your taste, when it comes to your charm, how diplomatic you can be, right? Your diplomacy skills, very, very good, very gifted in this way. And you are very intelligent, right? This intelligent diplomat who can find the balance between you and others. Maybe this is about you being both beauty and brains. And when it comes to sexual expression, you tend to be refined. You tend to be sincere, quite charming in your approach. Having that healthy exchange, right? We go back to sharing. Okay, so the sharing aspect, the healthy exchange within the bedroom is so important. And then I'm also thinking that what's equally as important, it's about how you get along with your sexual partner. Okay. Of course, right, this doesn't just have to be about sexual expression with someone else, but I'm just saying that it's within those moments of thoughtfulness, kindness, being polite, right? Those moments also assist with this healthier exchange within the bedroom too. Thank you so much, Vesta and Libra. Now we're going to move on to Vesta in Scorpio. Okay, Vesta in Scorpio, folks, let's take a moment to talk about you. Well, your eternal flame represents your very desire to establish deep and meaningful bonds. Yes, it's so important that there is trust, and truth. So your sacred eternal flame really signifies your deep desire for truth, for trust. And that's even, I think, linked to intimacy. It's linked to respect. You'll protect your sexuality. You'll protect your intense emotions, your sensitivities, and you'll also follow your strong hunches. Oh yeah, you'll follow your intuition. Your intuition can be very powerful here. And then there is that protective piece because this is Vesta. Okay, there's that protective piece, there is that devotional piece. And following on from this point, you can be devoted and driven when focusing on your goals. My goodness, I can imagine this combo of, if you have, for example, Mars and Scorpio with Vesta and Scorpio, oh my word, you could be a powerhouse, honestly. And following on from this point, I have been checking in with a few signs throughout this process. This is where it is really important to look to the chart, to look to how the asteroids, especially Vesta here, how Vesta is connecting with other planets in your chart. But anyway, you are always willing to investigate and to look beneath the surface, okay? You dig into things, you access what is hidden, you access certain corners of your mind. There's that psychological element to Scorpio. So in this regard, you're going to dig and dig and dig and dig. And you may even find certain things that are uncomfortable, But this is the thing, you are this bringer of truth. You are this bringer of bringing what is hidden. So you bring what is hidden to the surface for people to recognize, and then they can transform. There's a renewal, and this can happen for you too. Yes, you have great concentration here. The focus on you, my word. Anyway, however, you can alienate yourself whenever you take things to the extreme. Whenever you don't know how to let it rest, let it go. Okay? Whenever you don't trust others easily, whenever you're too protective, too suspicious, or whenever you fear vulnerability, you can be very closed. Okay? There can be that lack of trust. And then establishing relationships, so being close, being intimate, can be very challenging when this happens. And don't get me wrong, there's obviously going to be a lot of reasons for why that could be for you. There could be reasons present. But still, we do want to think about Vesta and how Vesta does signify how we can alienate ourselves. So for you, this can manifest as you pushing people away. I mean, it could be something that's so secure and so trustworthy and faithful. It could be something that comforts you and you're like, no, I'm suspicious of that. Oh, get that away from me. Could be this type of attitude. So maybe you can identify with those kinds of times in your own life. But hey, you can also be very self-contained when it comes to your commitments, when it comes to your power, right? Okay, your power. You can be so self-contained. Your ability to rise up, remarkable. And you can be a profound healer. Like I'm trying to get out here, incredibly resilient. Whatever life throws at you, you're like, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep fighting, okay? And then when it comes to, sorry, I have to say this because it's just coming to my mind. I said in the Vesta in Virgo section that Vesta is in Virgo in my chart. But Vesta in Virgo makes a sextile to Pluto in Scorpio. And I'm identifying with some of these themes. That just came to my mind there. But anyway, when it comes to your sexual expression, you're so passionate. You can be dominant as well. And then possessing this air of mystery in the bedroom could be important to you, right? Maybe you're willing to explore those hidden themes, those darker sort of elements, or those deeper desires of yours within the bedroom. But this is also where vulnerability comes in. This is where trust comes in. So if you don't trust another person, I really see this as you being very hesitant, very cautious, like we're not going there. Okay, I don't feel trust with you, or I don't feel safe around you, right? It's this type of attitude. But whenever there is that trust, you're willing to explore those depths. Let's just put it that way. Thank you so much, Vesta in Scorpio, folks. Now we're going to explore Vesta in Sagittarius. Okay, if you have Vesta in Sagittarius in your chart, what this can suggest is that your eternal flame represents your very desire to expand, to grow, to go on quests. This is a major placement for self-discovery, for self-exploration. Okay, so this is about your sacred flame representing your strong desires to seek more knowledge, even to be free, to align with your freedom, your personal freedom, and your aspirations. What you do is you protect your beliefs, you protect your future aspirations, you protect your foresight. You can be major visionaries here. And so you'll want to believe in your mission. you can strongly believe in your mission, in your aspirations, in you being able to attain your goals. You'll also be this protector of truth and honesty. You'll be a protector of the knowledge that you know, the knowledge that you seek. You may actually prefer to be recognized in many respects for the knowledge you offer the world, for what you bring. And you can also be very open minded when you focus on your goals, right? You're open to new strategies, new ways of doing things. You can even be strongly uplifted when you can see the possibilities, right? You see the possibilities, you even have the vision. There's such an inspiring feeling you get. There's this uplifting feeling you get. And then that's when you want to go for it. That's where your focus lies. Naturally, of course, the thing is I think about Sagittarius symbolizing the centaur, the archer. So you're aiming at your target. And there can be such precision with that. But there can also be times when you're aiming at so many targets, there's that flexibility. And the thing about this too is you can alienate yourself whenever you're too fanatical or whenever you're too dogmatic about things, right? You can you can go overboard. You can also maybe overcommit where you think I can go after all of this stuff, but then you might get caught up in all of that too much. And then also you might so you might alienate yourself by gambling with life, by being too risky, often without thinking about the consequences. Don't get me wrong, there could be times when you do gamble and it works out really well, but this could be where you might go too far. And then maintaining relationships in this regard when you're like this can be challenging. And then maybe that's also where healthy communication needs to come into it, right? Communicating, for example, before you just jump in to some new exciting mission or new project, especially if maybe you are in a relationship or you have a family, whatever it is. It's this desire to want to keep your independence and your freedom, but equally, it's also by recognizing who else is in your life too, right? Now, at the same time, you might be self contained when it comes to your faith, when it comes to your teachings. And you can be such an inspirational teacher. You can be a very enthusiastic explorer, and you never stop learning. You never stop learning. You never stop seeking knowledge. You never stop sharing the knowledge that you learn about with others. And there is that wise element here, the wise sage. Then, when it comes to your sexual expression, you can be generous, you can be frank, you can be a little bit wild, perhaps. Okay, there can be a wild side to you, but there can also be a very intellectual side to you. Do keep in mind, of course, the whole chart and everything, what's Vesta doing in the chart with other planets, but I'm also going to say that keeping a sense of adventure in the bedroom is important. And then I'm thinking that that's where freedom is so vital. When you feel like you have the freedom, when you feel like you're not confined or super restricted by all of life's commitments and duties and obligations, then that's when maybe you're going to feel more sexually aligned. Let's put it that way. Thank you so much, Vesta in Sagittarius, folks. Now we're going to move on to Vesta in Capricorn. All right, Vesta in Capricorn, folks, let's explore you. Right, what this can suggest here is that your sacred flame, your eternal flame, represents your desire to achieve and accomplish, to align with your purpose, to discipline yourself. So, what you do is you protect your accomplishments, you protect your status, you protect how you're seen in front of the public eye. We could also argue that you protect your very performance. So I do imagine this as you being very selective about maybe the kinds of roles you take or opportunities that present themselves, people you work with, people who are maybe connected to your work, to your name, your title, your role. And you'll most likely want to play by the rules as well. I want to share quickly that previously I mentioned that Vesta is in Virgo in my chart, and that Vesta does make a trine to Mars in Capricorn in my chart. So I'm really relating to some of what I've said so far, pretty much all of it, to be honest. And that is where you want to think about the whole chart too, because aspects matter. We want to think about which aspects Vesta is making to other planets, and then you're going to get the full picture. But anyway, moving on, you are willing to sacrifice yourself for security reasons. You may think to yourself, do you know what? I am going to start this project or this role, and I'm going to dedicate my life to it. Yeah. It's more than just work, you see. It's about purpose. It's about your mission. It's about your life's work. Being in something for the long haul is really important to you, matters to you. It's your commitment, it's your integrity, it's your discipline. So, yeah, you may decide that you're willing to commit yourself to this 10-year plan, 20-year plan, life year plan. And so you're going to make certain sacrifices. So it's this thing of sacrifices in the now, sacrifices in the present, even though maybe resources are lower at the time, maybe money isn't the best at the time, but you understand that the more you're in that thing, the more you put into it, the more work, the more effort, the more refinement, then you're going to reap greater rewards later. Still be challenging though, can certainly test you. You can be dedicated when focusing on your goals, and you feel that attaining them, it's your responsibility. It's sort of why you're here. It's this feeling. However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you are overly rigid with your time, whenever you try too hard to control your environment. Okay, there's a lesson for Capricorn here to pivot in life. You can also find that you can become, so getting you to let loose, basically, right? It's important to loosen up is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's important for you to loosen up within your relationships. Whenever you are in this mindset of, no, I need to control this. This is my purpose. This is my vision. You can just be so focused on the long term that you may overlook emotional connection, maybe socializing with other people, joining with your friends, meeting up with other people in this way, right? It's that emotional piece. Even you may not necessarily pay attention to your emotional needs either. Still, you can be super self-contained when it comes to your obligations, when it comes to organizing, planning, when it comes to building something. And you show strength and integrity in whatever you do. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to experience setbacks. You are going to experience some kind of failures. I mean, the other day I made an Instagram reel about how I have experienced failures, such as the Cosmic Warriors Club that started a couple years ago, had to close down 2 months later, started a Patreon, didn't go according to plan. That's part of the process. It's part of your success. But when it comes to your sexual expression, you are practical. You are purposeful. Commitment in the bedroom is important. And then that's also where commitment and integrity and respect is so important, right? So you need to feel like you're respected by your partner, your spouse, for instance. Thank you so much, Vesta in Capricorn. Moving on then to Vesta in Aquarius. All right, Vesta in Aquarius, folks, let's talk about this placement for you. How might this manifest? Okay, your eternal / sacred flame represents your desire to create change, to innovate, but to also keep your personal freedom. Kind of similar to Vesta in Sagittarius in this way when we think about freedom. Yes, it's important to you that you protect your independence, you protect your individuality, even to protect the communities you're a part of, the causes you stand for, the movements you stand for, the charities you start, the friendship groups you are a part of as well. You'll protect these very things. You'll also protect your future wishes. Okay, so your hopes for the future, how you see the future, your social utopia. You can really stand for justice and truth and freedom and fairness, all these kinds of things. And you'll also typically work well within groups, provided that you're on the same page. Because I think you can also equally become really annoyed by people who do not share the same values, the same principles. They're not really like-minded. So the more like-minded in a way, the better. But then again, I'm also going to say you can be quite respectful towards other people's views, even if they clash with yours. And plus, you'll want your uniqueness to be respected, just like you might respect other people's uniqueness. So if people maybe try to unnecessarily interrupt, not give people space, not value another person's opinion, maybe that can set off alarm bells in your brain, in your mind. And then I'm also thinking that you can be inventive, quite inventive when focusing on your goals. You tend to think outside of the box, maybe even create your own box entirely. So you're going to think outside of the box when focusing on your goals. And you'll also experiment with new ideas, new theories, new strategies, new concepts. It could be this whole attitude of, you know what, I'm willing to try that. I'm willing to give that a go. And then you can experiment with it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And then you learn from it. But here's the thing, you can also alienate yourself whenever you are too highly opinionated, whenever you're very fixed on your opinions and you don't listen to other people, or whenever you completely rebel against members of authority who want to help. There could be this misunderstanding, and that misunderstanding could be directed at you, but it could also be that you're misunderstanding other people in some way, shape, or form. So this is where alienation can come in. And then having more cooperative, tactful relationships, diplomatic relationships can be challenging whenever this happens. It's as if to say, whenever you're so focused on, I'm right, yeah. That's where there can be the difficulty. But I'm also going to say, whenever other people can present certain facts and information to you and it makes sense to you, then maybe you think, yeah, okay, I'm willing to talk. But do keep in mind that there are certain cases in life whenever this type of attitude can be challenging because maybe you miss out on certain roles or opportunities or something doesn't align the way you want. But at the same time, I'm also going to say that you can be self-contained when it comes to your humanitarian efforts. You can literally be that person who starts a cause, starts a movement of your own, starts a charity of your own, and you are still a major team player within any group you join. Yes. So you can be a team player within the group whilst also having your own mind. You have a mind of your own, and then equally you can contribute to the group. Plus, when it comes to your sexual expression, you are intriguing. You can possibly be innovative. You can be quite creative. Maybe this is where you can equally think outside of the box, or you can experiment with different approaches, different ways of doing things, showing up. And there could be this element of surprise. There's an element of surprise in the bedroom, which could be important to you. But then equally, I'm thinking that the best way is mental, okay? It's through the mind. Maybe you sort of think to yourself, oh my goodness, this person barely knows anything. I can barely hold a conversation for, like, I cannot hold a conversation for more than 2 minutes. And then you think, just no way. There is no way we can connect. No. So it's this thing of needing to feel like you're intellectually aligned with another person too. Thank you so much, Vesta in Aquarius, folks. And lastly, we are going to talk about Vesta in Pisces. Okay, Vesta in Pisces, folks, let's explore you. And I'm going to say quickly that it is important to check to see what Vesta is doing in the chart in combination with other planets of yours. That way you're going to grasp the bigger picture. I've been saying that a few times throughout the video just to make you aware, to remind you. But Vesta in Pisces, your sacred flame, your eternal flame, represents your very desire to show compassion. Okay, to be compassionate, to be empathetic towards others. So what you do is you try to relate on this emotional level. Maybe you can, in some way, shape, or form, relate to how a certain situation causes someone to act in a particular way. Right? You may go out of your way to maybe put yourself into their shoes, to sort of feel into, oh, right, yeah, I can understand that. I can get that. And then equally, I think you're going to protect your artistic vision. Oh my goodness. You can protect your creativity, even your dreams, your spiritual values, your spiritual methods, principles, all of these things. You're going to protect them. And you're also going to be devoted to those who need you the most. Oh, yeah. You are the types of people who are willing to make certain sacrifices, provided that you are connected with whoever it is, or that provided that it aligns with your compassion and your empathetic understanding. It's interesting because there is, like I said, an element to Vesta that is about making sacrifices, and Pisces is such a sacrificial sign. So we could argue that the sacrifices you make, it's like, whoa, you can really go above and beyond in many ways. Plus, you can be quite fluid when focusing on your goals, very flexible, adaptable. You're able to adjust. You're even able to go with the flow somewhat. I kind of think to myself that when there is this stream of consciousness that pulls through or comes through, whenever you're in the mood, whenever you're riding that certain wave, whenever your intuition is lit up and it says, yes, 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 But then equally, whenever you need to step away, whenever you need to rest, whenever you need to relax. This is a part of your creative process. This is a part of your focus. And then I'm also thinking that you want the option to switch off from time to time. Maybe that's actually what you need to a large extent. It's to know that you can switch off. You need time to recharge, but within that state, that's where a lot of processing occurs. Emotional processing, visual processing. So that's exciting for you. However, you can also alienate yourself whenever you're too idealistic, maybe. Whenever you're too dreamy. It's like, oh, I imagine this, I visualize this, but you don't actually act on anything. Or whenever maybe you try too hard to please everyone. Okay, you might try to please everybody. This can result in you making too many sacrifices. You can be, there can be the elements of martyrdom. Suffering can happen too. And then I'm thinking that because of this, feeling serene within your relationships can be challenging. Yeah, whenever this stuff happens, it can be difficult to feel at peace. There can be that lack of inner peace, but then that's also, I think, where it's important to remember and recognize your body, right? Connecting with your physical body, your physical well-being. Yes, yes. Still, you might be self-contained when it comes to your psychic abilities. You can pick up on things pretty well. You can get these hunches, you just know. And also, you're a highly rhythmic person with a fantastic imagination. Fantastic. Someone very close to me has this placement, and their imagination is next level. Even the way that person has communicated this placement to me, their experience with it, the visions they get, the visuals, very crystal clear. I'm inspired. But then, when it comes to your sexual expression, you are sensitive. You're very sensitive. Yes, you can be serving. Tapping into a little fantasy in the bedroom is important. So, yes, on one side of this, I'm thinking that you're willing to explore those fantasies and those desires within the bedroom. Okay. And that can manifest in many ways. But I'm also thinking because you can be so sensitive, this can manifest as times even whenever you can't, like you just don't feel like it because maybe there's so much else going on in your life at the time and it feels overwhelming. So this could be where maybe a little bit of a release could support you, or this could be where maybe someone can help you, maybe can help lighten the load for you in life a bit. Thank you so much, Vesta in Pisces. But on that note, everybody, this has been the video all about Vesta through the signs. And I do want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have found this video to be helpful. And if you do want to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. If you find the video to be helpful, you can always buy me a coffee. Subscribe for more if you haven't already, and certainly give the video a like if you did find it to be helpful today. Stay tuned for more, everyone, and I will talk to you in the next one.